Yep, I just press record, but if we have some chit chat beforehand that we don't want it out there, I can always cut it off.
Oh, it's all good. Let's go ahead and dive in, man.
Okay. So hello folks, let's do a brief introduction. I'm here again with Stephen D Kelley. We're getting to know each other quite well and becoming good friends, even though we're far away, but through the screen. I'm sure if we met in real life, Stephen would have a even better crack. Or crake, as they say in the Irish, yeah? The crack. Enjoy the crack. Basically, I was asking Stephen beforehand there if he's got anything he wants to talk about. He said, not really, and I've not really prepared anything, so we do a kind of ad hoc chit-chat here.
I'm sure we could come up with something.
We usually do, yeah. Basically, we've got tons of shit in our head, and it usually comes out as it's meant to come out in the right time and space of the universe. So, just before we start, I'm using a software here because I've got two other softwares that can record video, but Stephen doesn't like to use Google Chrome. Therefore, this is the last one I use. And sometimes the sound doesn't sync up, but if I leave it long enough to render after, I usually leave it overnight. The last one was okay, so hopefully this one will be okay. Apologies if it's not. With that said, Stephen, how are you today, my friend?
Good. I mean, you say we don't know what to talk about. It's not that there's nothing to talk about. It's just that we're kind of numb. Right? I mean, I don't know about you.
I'm so numb, man. I'm so fucking numb. Sick and tired of it. Like, oh God, please make it end.
God. It's just
numb. But there's various reasons for that, mind you.
It's so thick right now. It's so thick. Oh my God. Hang on a second. I got to swat a moth. Oh my God. Got a moth infestation.
That's life, man. Come on. Don't swat moths.
Yeah. Well, it's like I had this bag of bird food, this big thing of bird food, and then they got into it. And anyway.
Okay, so there's a purpose to it.
Yeah, but no. All right, this is the thing. Obviously, I'm going to kind of talk about the stuff I talked about in the last show. I'm assuming you watched the last show, right?
I got to about 10 minutes from the end.
All right. Well, that's you got the gist of it then.
Yeah.
You got the message. And these things are never an accident, and a lot of people have responded, and they've. I think this is kind of the way it's got to be done right now, and I think it applies to so many issues or things that we have to deal with right now or in the future.
Where do we start?
I know. All right. Well, let me just get into the gist of it. Basically, what I was saying was. There's so much rhetoric. All right, just this morning, this is what I saw this morning. Q-Anon is being compared to Al Qaeda.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
they've got no shame in their lies.
Exactly. It's like. I mean, first of all, Al Qaeda is CIA anyway. It's CIA. It's the Mujahideen we're all employees of the CIA. I mean, the word Al Qaeda means the list. It was the list. It was a list of all the damn mercenaries. But so this is really truly inciting.
So do you think that's done for a purpose? Do you think that's done also for the purpose of people just Al Qaeda's a scary thing, so QAnon is a scary thing, so stay away from.
Of course.
Because QAnon in some way is wakening people up to some kind of truth that might not have been awakened before, but it's getting them trapped in a cul-de-sac of Q and Trump is going to save it and make America great again, etc. But actually, some of the stuff they talk about is opening doors.
It's just a label. You see, what the thing is that QAnon was, as I've said before, anytime something happens, it always works in both directions. There's competing, alternating agendas going on. Right. So certainly, by harnessing. They tried to harness us. They tried to harness the truth movement and basically attach this QAnon label to the truth movement.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Once they think they've done that, then they can attach this Al Qaeda label, which again is just some BS label.
Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously, it's like there was a shooting, I guess, where some kid who supposedly was a QAnon follower had a gun, because of course they have the right to carry guns around here, and some idiot actually loaded one up in the chamber and fired one off at some unruly Antifa guy. And who knows, it may have even been justified. But the point is that, more than likely, it was a big staged event, false flag, whatever. It was choreographed, even if the guy doing it was unwitting. The thing was at least it was all programmed to happen in such a way to achieve this effect. And now we're being labeled as some sort of terrorist organization. But then, of course, if you were to, here's the thing. If they take my words, for instance, like the last show, where I tell everybody to be really quiet and start acting really nice and sweet, and then when the time comes, you're gonna react with extreme violence. They hear that, they get scared shitless, and then they suddenly come. Here's the thing. After I had a show on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
And I come out and I say, okay, guys, new strategy. Stop talking shit about everything. Start going into peace mode. And when the time comes, you're going to all become Attila the Hun. Okay. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't care. You could be a housewife, making cookies, but tomorrow you're going to take those knives out and you're going to go insane. And people are going to go, where the hell did that come from?
Well, that time
right?
seems to be approaching when it's going to be necessary.
Yeah. But now, because of that, all of a sudden, 2 days later, we're being labeled Al Qaeda.
Yeah, right. So you think there's a connection directly from what you?
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just that first one you said, that drives me crazy with the fact that all the truth movement is now labelled as Q-Anon. So they're just promoting this Q-Anon, and basically people can see that's a nonsense. So then everyone gets labelled. It's a whole tactic,
Mm-hmm.
And that's that in itself. So now the extra step with Al Qaeda. I mean, what's next?
They paint us with a broad brush, and then they get everybody to hate that color. Basically.
It's just, again, it's one big narrative, one big program, and people just following the program. So whatever they say, people just go along with it, and so it makes it harder and harder to get any kind of, just you speaking and people investigate what you say for that instead of.
But they do, though. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, as you say, there's
amazing.
But there is so many different people just talking shit these days about so many different things. So the basic things of what we should be focusing on is getting lost in just this kind
speaking
of
about
fight.
People talking shit. What is this thing with Charlie Freak that you?
All right.
You put out a little manifesto. What the hell is that?
The manifesto. I sent you something. Basically, apparently, Charlie's getting attacked. It was his partner that posted it on Facebook, and it looks like Charlie went inside.
Attacked by what?
Yeah.
Me? What?
No, there was somebody shot at him. Basically.
What?
Aye.
Shot at him. Oh no! Do you believe that? Come on.
Drones were flying around their house. Two nights ago, someone fired two gunshots.
Drones? No.
2 gunshots towards Charlie coming home from feeding the animals. They weren't trying to hit Charlie, but scare him.
Oh, because he was feeding animals. I see.
No, because of what he's saying, obviously, on the internet, etc.
What was he doing that caused somebody to shoot at him? Did you say he was feeding an animal?
Well, he's got an animal sanctuary, so apparently he's feeding them, and a drone's going over his house every night. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I want to say right now, I've got nothing. I've interviewed Charlie Freak.
Well, here's on my show. They probably think they've got something weird going on over there. That's what they're thinking. Like he's some. Oh, I know what it is, because of his association with QAnon and his sort of. Yeah, that makes sense. They probably got him pegged as some sort of revolutionary or something like that. And he's got some secret thing going on at his property. That's probably what it is.
Well, he claims, to have direct contact with Q and stuff, so you think he'd be protected.
Oh, well, that doesn't help. That really, that helps. That helps. Yeah, that helps. Jeez. And then he wonders why there's people in his bushes stalking him and what keeping, why are those men with binoculars in my bushes?
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, I don't know.
Well, I'm used to that.
So what do you mean? You just used to people?
No,
attacking you.
No, in the spy business, obviously CIA, NSA, stuff like that. I'm used to have people following me around, people in cars. For instance, like if you're one of my buddies and you're getting close to me, and they're going to stake you out. They're going to see what you're up to. If you're a girlfriend, if you're a new girlfriend, they're going to kind of check you out and see what's going on. And and especially if you're like a woman comes in my life and then all of a sudden she's talking to another guy, they're going to be all over that. They're going to want to know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But people that join my business, like people that's okay. Let me just put it this way. Sometimes most people lead really boring lives, and they look at this spy stuff as being very sexy and exciting, like the movies and TV. I used to think that too, of course. But when a couple times throughout my career, I've had people, buddies or someone say, "Oh, wow, this is so cool. My life is so boring. I'd like to become part of your business so I could see what it's like." And, they do. Sometimes they'll make a little investment and then they'll go with me to a show and they'll put on the shirt and stand around with me in public and stuff like that. The next thing you know, they're being under surveillance and they've got people on their property looking through their windows and stuff like that. And that's part of the territory. And that's scary. That was very scary. Those particular people moved. They just got scared and moved away. And they even had big dogs, which was funny. He had a big Rottweiler, and yet they still did this.
Yeah, well, they're very intimidating, these people, I'm quite sure. Although, touch wood, it's not happened to me and won't in the future. But basically, that thing they've got.
You had somebody do that?
No, I'm saying touch wood, hopefully it doesn't happen. But basically, haven't they got enough information on us all already, I'm sure they know exactly what everyone's up to all the time, basically.
Well, they still think that you're capable of doing sneaky stuff that they're not going to see. I mean, it's hell. I had a little guy, Laotian immigrant, and he was in the optical business, and he wasn't even someone that I saw very often, but because we did talk once in a while on the phone, one time I did have to see him for something. He says, I have these people following me home and stuff, and, I know why it is. I know why they're doing that. It's okay. But this guy was coming from a war environment. Right. He understood stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. Most of us are in denial. We think, oh, why would they be interested in me? Right?
Yeah, he was battle hardened.
Pretty much, for sure. Yeah, he's like, I know I've got these people following me because of you, but it's okay. Yeah. But this is the same. I'll tell you another story. It's like one time I had to hide a bunch of guns. I mean, a shitload of guns.
As you
do. Well, just, and, even really big stuff. But I called him up and he just showed up loaded up, took it away. And when I wanted it back, all I had to do was call him, he brought it back. No questions asked.
Okay.
I didn't have to worry about him selling them or saying anything or asking any questions or telling his wife or anything like that.
That's the kind of trust you want in people. This is what I think is a big problem with humanity. They're even going to pay people for them to rat on their neighbour if they're not wearing a mask and stuff like that, We should be showing, this is what's happening in the UK right now. And basically, we should be showing solidarity and, trust and keeping our mouth shut instead of running to authorities to report on each other at a time like this.
It's really weak.
It's pretty bad.
It's really weak. That doesn't say much for the people. I'm sorry, but my God, people should be fighting and resisting. And
they're still going along with this, and thinking that the government's on their side, even after 6 months of this nonsense, and it's just not making any sense. I mean, in Britain again, just a few days ago, both in England and Scotland done it the day after. They're only limiting outside group meetings to 6. But you can go to a pub and you can go to a restaurant and you can work beside 50 people, but you can't meet outside in groups of 6. And obviously the number 6 is, got a meaning behind that. But it's just, they're just fucking with people. It doesn't make any sense. Left, right, up, down.
Oh, boy, that's really crazy. Groups like, wow. But, over here they have laws like if you have a party, you can have no more than 20 people. But if it's a protest, you can have 100 people. So we're not having a party; we're having a protest
party. Protest parties are exempt. Have as many as you want.
Right.
But that was the point. There was that David Dyke interview the other day. The meeting they had in London was 35,000 people. Was one of the figures quoted. But the police can't do anything when we do get together in mass numbers like that. Although what the event achieved is debatable. But David Icke did make a good point. I just listened to him. He was recently chatted to Jeff Renz, and he was saying about these masks. What was he saying about them? Oh, he was saying about the masks on children.
Oh,
there's basically this, it's stopping them forming their character when they're young. When they're putting these masks on children, these kids don't know who they are. And it's also having a demeaning effect. And your self-respect, you don't want to put a mask on, but they're forcing you to put a mask on for something nonsense.
Well, it's totally screwing with people's emotions too. You can't smile.
Exactly. We can't look at each other and see, body language, etc.
Yeah, you can't smile. Exactly.
So it's beyond insane. Very damaging.
Well,
so if the government still thinks, if people still think the government cares for them, and they're actually literally torturing their children, and this is child abuse going on in the schools and stuff, I mean, what chance have we got of actually waking them up to the bigger realities, of what's going on? Because government's just a very small part in a big agenda in many different aspects of this, which lead, like at work recently, the guy says, "What's the solution?" And I said, to go down the tunnels and root the aliens out. So now they're all fucking laughing at me. They're all, Billy, do you believe in aliens?
Well, we don't say the aliens. We don't say aliens. We don't mention that. Oh, look, aliens! Oh, what do we do now? Oh, ooh, look at that. It's like, oops, wow, what do we do now? Golly gee whiz, guys.
There is a meme. It says, if you're going to wake a friend up on the first time, don't go full reptile.
Don't go full reptile. No kidding. All right, okay, I'll just tell my reptile story because this is when I got exposed to it. Okay, right after being having my falling out with the NSA, the LA North people, I hooked up to this wannabe CIA dude, and he was working for Billy Meyer, who of course was that Swiss bus driver who was having contact with Pleiadians. And there were several people that he was actually a group of, two Britt and Lee elders, this Bob Welch, and this Colonel something or other. I can't remember his name right now. He's pretty famous though. Wendell Stevens, that's it. Wendell Stevens. And anyway, this group was they sort of recruited me because I was in the laser business, and I had this really high tech background, and they started showing me all these UFO pictures, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. This is interesting. They started programming me and getting me used to this stuff because they wanted me to help them analyze some alien technology that they had gotten access to. They wanted me to help them sell, like VHS tapes and crap like that. And what else did they want? They wanted me to provide security because, of course, I was all about guns, and that was my thing. I was, gun person. So they wanted me to help them because it was all about protecting Billy Meyer. But the thing is, the point, to get back to what you're talking about, is that of all the things they exposed me to, the one thing that was unacceptable to me was the reptiles, the reptoids, and that whole thing. And that was the one thing that I had to file it away. Just file it away in the the deep freeze. And when I tell people that you can't attach emotion and judge the idea, you have to file it away until you're ready to go back and reconsider it. And when it might become a little bit, okay, now I understand. If you don't do that at the get-go, if you think, oh, this is bullshit, and you blow it off, you're not going to get that knowledge. But obviously, we know different now. But it's like that was one of those things that for sure, way back in 1991 or whatever it was, when I was getting exposed to this stuff, that I did not want to accept that they were big, tall Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, back in those days, we called him Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, seriously, this is how we looked at. We thought of them as like, how are we going to fight these guys? They're all damn Arnold Schwarzeneggers. They're like 6 feet different. Like, what are we?
Not to be messed with.
Yeah. They're like all Terminators. It's like trying to fight Terminators. Seriously. But anyway, obviously things change. But so that's the lesson. The lesson is, if you can't accept it, you got to teach these people to not reject these ideas, but at least file them away, and then maybe later something will happen and they'll remember that, right? And they'll reconsider.
I think it's quite funny because a few of them are coming up to me now and saying, do you believe in aliens and whatever? And then there's talking about Area 51 and stuff like that. So it's a little thing that it's opened their mind up to that reality. Yeah. So it's I think it's amusing.
Yeah. How can you deny it? But here's the thing about even Area 51, the reality of what's actually going on there is even beyond what they'll be even willing to accept. They'll accept that it exists. They know that crazy stuff is going on, but it's so crazy that they can't even begin to accept what it is.
Can you hear some crackling on the line, by the way?
That's you. Jeez.
So listen, I was just on it. Emma was listening to me there, and there was no crackling. And now you're on. There's a crackling a little bit. So we're blaming you.
For what? What is
the crackling. Anyway,
well,
not to worry.
Check it out. My wires. Okay, let me show you something.
Right.
I have a. I'll just show you on the camera here. I have a. What is it? This is an IV stand, right?
All right.
So my wire links through the loop on the IV stand.
Professional.
So that way it's hanging from that. And then it goes over here and it wraps around something. And then, so in other words, there's no gravity. I could move this all day and it won't. It'll have no effect on.
I was alluding to the fact that maybe your calls are getting recorded. Or listen in on.
Of course not. Well, okay, that's not my fault. Okay,
well,
in that case, if you want to be that way, then fine. I'll take credit for everything.
Okay.
It's like,
it's all yours.
It's my fault. It's my fault. It's all me. It's all me.
They don't want to listen to what I've got to say. I just talk pish.
Yeah, that's right. I'm the leader of the fuck. Well, I am. Damn it. Fuck,
basically, yeah.
And then you got guys like what's his face saying, I'm in touch with Q. Are you kidding me? Are you? God, that's so crazy. That's so. Have you ever? I mean, seriously, have you thought about that? What that means when somebody says that they're actually having contact with Q?
Well, they actually believe that Q's helping them get YouTube views and things like this, and putting his message out there.
Am I right or am I wrong? Did he say that he has personal communication with this Q?
Well, some kind of contact with someone. I don't know. I don't know. I fell away from it when it got too much into Q because I listened to people like you. I researched Donald Trump a bit more. I was waiting for the kids to come out of the tunnels and the celebrities to get arrested. After a few weeks of that not happening, I was like, "No, this is bullshit." So, I shouldn't have been in for it in the first place, but I give everything a chance, And then when it started getting too much, Q this and Trump is God, and I was like, "Whoa, this is mental."
Well, okay, you remember last week, I think we were talking about how Trump was backtracking and all this stuff and how suddenly he was talking about pardoning Snowden and he was going to back off on the mandatory vaccines. And so basically what's happening is that they're following our lead. We're controlling that dialogue right now. And when we say something, we talk about something, they are forced to react and respond to what we do. They don't want it that way. They want to say something and have us react to them. But we've taken that over. So we put them in a position they don't want to be. And this is making us, that's why we're a threat, obviously. That's why they want us to go away.
Sometimes they're proven by what they don't say. And as you said, you're talking about tunnels and, specifically where to go. But the fact that you are talking about the tunnels in general, but they're talking about the tunnels as well, but not mentioning that one thing. So even if that is the place to attack them, or if we can even get in there, it's debatable. But the fact is they're not talking about it. Why not? Because it will draw attention to it and people will investigate further. And,
I will just say this, is that and I really believe this is not ego speaking, and that is this entire issue, the way it's developed in the last 8 years. Once again, just like you said, I'm going to take full credit for that, for it even being an issue, because it's now fashionable. It never was. And now they have to talk about tunnels. They would never have talked about tunnels because, my God, they had Phil Schneider. What more did they need? That didn't work. It wasn't until I got out there and pestered and pestered and pestered that it finally took a foothold in the psyche of the people. And now it's so people are talking about tunnels and bunkers and all that fun stuff. And because of that, the powers that be, who are, again, having to react are now concocting stories about rescues and the heroic American soldiers that are going down there and being appalled at what they're seeing with these poor children and all this nonsense, and they're so angry that they have to destroy everything. It's like, come on.
Show us one child.
This crap would never be said if it wasn't for the success of what we've done at educating people that this stuff exists. So every time you see any sort of media, and that includes our so-called co-opted truth media, saying that things are happening, it's only because we have forced them to try to respond in such a way to try to take over the narrative and make people calm down and relax and go back to thinking everything's okay, which it isn't. So you really got to watch those people and say, "Don't worry, it's okay."
Trust the plan. Trust the plan. Sit back and relax. That's like,
exactly.
They have these slogans, don't they? In the 60s, it was turn in, tune in, drop out, and basically they had a movement, a strong anti-war movement. We were quite, well read and stuff. They knew they would react against the government, so they got them all hooked on drugs and fucked up their brains, and then labelled them all as hippies if they're anti-war, and again turns people against it. So
non-conformist,
they use these. Yeah, so did that.
The peace sign. What was it? The peace sign was the peace sign was the footprint of the American chicken. Come on, I grew up with that stuff. We were going to war back in those days. You guys weren't fighting in Vietnam, I don't think. UK wasn't involved in that stuff. No. But
only
France obviously had to deal with that. No, France had their asses kicked. Remember Dien Bien Phu?
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway.
Well, they say America lost that war, but in reality they've set up a government there just like to fit into the thing, because it was more tribal Vietnam, but they bring it into the modern world, and then they pull out and say, we lost, but in reality the corporations won.
Well, they were restrained. Obviously, they couldn't bomb Hanoi the way they really wanted to, and their military tactics with the way they flew the bombers was stupid, because it was like practically gave the Vietnamese the opportunity to shoot them down. It's like really weird. But the real problem with that whole conflict was that all of the countries to the west of Vietnam got sucked into it. Cambodia, Laos, Thailand. I mean, Thailand, of course, didn't really get sucked into it, but they were put in a war footing for the duration. But Laos and Cambodia, they got wiped out because of this stuff. And that was the problem, is that because they couldn't declare this war over the border, everything was unofficial.
Right.
You can't fight a war like that. Yeah. It's all guerrilla bullshit.
Have to
just like I was saying, guerrilla.
So I had a question before, but we keep getting sidetracked. But yeah, the military, just talking about that, there's a story now in the British paper, again, the military are getting lined up to do mass vaccinations. It's obviously a big threat they're holding people to, and that's getting people riled up and, losing their emotional balance. Quite rightly, it's not something that we want the military turning up. And they're also saying in Birmingham, they're going to start going door to door to offer coronavirus tests. So these are things that are happening quicker and quicker.
Not bad. Yeah. Well, they're taking away the voluntary thing, or they're pretty much going to force. I think they'll probably start out with a shame coercion thing, and then they'll figure out. They'll make a list of people who say no. That could be what it is.
Yeah.
This is a test to see who will comply and go, oh sure, and who says, oh fuck it, I'll give you a piece of my mind. Oh, why are you taking me away? Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, they got Granny today.
I'm sure it's for our own good.
Yeah. They'll teach her to simmer down.
To resist. Do not resist.
Yeah, the Fuhrer sends a letter that says, we're sorry to report that your grandmother passed away, but we want to thank you for her patriotism and her service to her country.
She serves their fucking country well, or corporation well.
She serves the country well. Soylent Green, or something.
Yeah, well, they're also talking about care homes having a...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. They're also, I'm not sure if they've done it, or they're certainly talking about locking down all the care homes, and there's been quite a lot of deaths in these care homes, and people think it's because of COVID, but obviously they get the COVID test, they say it's positive, they put them on toxic medication, they put them on a ventilator, and they die, and they blame COVID. So there's been
It's kind of like a face mask. Well, this is the thing. It's not just those places. They're going to do it in all the schools, too. They're getting ready to do it in all the schools, and that's really concerning. That's really concerning.
So
all the kids.
Hi.
And this is where all the 5G is, of course, too. And like they put the 5G in the care homes, too. What do they need that for? Grandma needs that Wi-Fi. Grandma needs that Wi-Fi.
Aye. The Internet of Things. Grandma's fridge will, be her best friend and make her tea and put her to bed and be her nurse. That's basically what they want, the robot world. And that's what they seem to be getting.
I wonder if people set up baby monitor type cameras in old folks' homes so they can keep an eye on grandma and see if she's being abused by the staff. I don't think they would have that, right? You'd need good Wi-Fi for that, probably.
Yeah, that's true. You could suggest that to them. I'm sure it'd be taken on board.
Send her the teddy bear with a camera in, right? So make sure you plug this teddy bear in over there and have it pointed at grandma, please. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Because I think a lot of these nurses and care homes and stuff are kind of sworn to secrecy, and I don't know if they have to sign oaths or whatever, but I believe a lot of them are, and if they speak out, one nurse spoke out last week, and I think her job was getting investigated, and that was all news, So they obviously ridicule people.
Right. That's because of the COVID nonsense?
Yeah. But they ridicule any of those staff coming out with any truth about what's going on in the wards and stuff, as a warning to the other ones not to do it. That's basically a big mind control.
Well, the thing is, though, is that normally people, not enough people even spend time with their relatives, their loved ones that are in these places, and that's really a big part of the problem.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, we're losing our community and our compassion and humanness with each other. And the more we get isolated and wear masks, the more that's going to keep us all separate.
I was thinking, with these lockdowns, what have you, they're going to make it so you can't even go in there and visit and what have you. I mean, you can't even go into a damn cemetery right now where there's nobody around. It's ridiculous. Everybody's dead. You can't go to the cemetery. Sorry. You got to stay 6 feet apart.
This is why they're promoting this Zoom, and these Skype meetings quite a lot, and Facebook's doing, group meetings and stuff. They want us to talk through computer screens, basically, and interact that way. Like we've got a problem with distance, It's like the care home could be around the corner and they're forcing you to talk through a screen. That's the difference.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe grandma needs better Skype, right?
Anyway, let's get back to the reptiles. We were talking about that, because basically people, it might be we've just talked about that and then we dropped it because of the call cut off and stuff, had problems with audio. But going back to that, reptiles, if I'm saying that to you for the first time and, people just think you're nuts, what can you give a background story of, the reptiles? They're down in these tunnels. How did they get there? What have they got to do with us? And what's their objective? Again, just for the person who might be hearing this stuff for the first time.
Oh, well, okay. That's kind of, I could give you the David Icke story or I could give you another story. And that's really a tough question to ask me here at the moment. But basically, there's three. There's the Anunnaki, which are referred to as the bird people. There's the reptiles, which are, of course, referred to as the lizards. And there's the gray, which are referred to as the ant people or insects. But this is sort of what they call each other. Okay. And these entities are like enemies, and they've been enemies for a long time. And they're also enemies of all these other people, and that's what it's really all about. And so they're not the only ones, but the reason why they're kind of like important here on Earth is because the insect ones, the little gray guys, used to be running things here, and they were sort of conquered by the reptile guys who took over their domain, which of course is underground. And now the little gray guys have to live somewhere else, like on the moon. So that's how it works.
Okay, interesting. And how does the Anunnaki fit into that picture? Where are they? I mean, I've heard that their homeland is Nibiru. Is that true?
Yeah, part of the, let's say, treaty that was put together as a result of all the warfare between these three entities was that Nibiru would get a home, a planet, a impervious, kind of like a Death Star sort of thing, and it would and basically the reason of this is because the gray have the same thing. We call it the moon, and the moon
Okay.
was the moon was destroyed a long time ago, and it was rebuilt. And when it was rebuilt, they made it so that it couldn't be destroyed again, and they also put it at a precise diameter and a precise distance away so that we would have an eclipse. And this, of course, is completely unnatural. The eclipse is completely unnatural. Lunar eclipse, yeah, unnatural.
Because of the chances of that being in the exact position and the exact size for that to happen is like millions to one kind of thing.
Yeah,
So it's obviously
doesn't
placed
happen.
there. It shows sign of intelligence for that to be put there.
Yeah,
And what about the fact
that's
that
why
we
they
never?
did that.
What about the fact that we never see the dark side of the moon? We always see the same face of it.
Same thing. Same
And
thing.
David Icke says that the moon is in fact a spaceship. Would you call it that?
Mm. Well, that would imply that it travels around. No, it doesn't travel.
Uh-huh.
It only travels it travels in circles around the planet.
So you think inside the moon, that's where all the activity is, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
And do these greys come down to Earth and interact here then, or have they just been banished to
All
the
the
moon?
time. All the time.
And how do they do that? Do they teleport? Do they use a wormhole? Do they use a craft?
Usually they'll use a craft, yeah.
Okay.
That was Emily.
And lots of abductions, people describe these grey aliens. Was that what they would be doing, and why would they be doing that? Surely they've advanced well beyond needing to...
Well, obviously it's for food, but it's also for genetic work. I mean, certainly they're trying. I mean, hell, we are genetic hybrid creations in the first place. So, in other words, the hybridization and genetic manipulation has never really stopped.
So I'm reading a book right now. It's talking about these kind of things, and it said that the Anunnaki were the ones who genetically modified us from some kind of
Well, they did. But
So-
so did the other ones. They all did.
Yeah. So which version are we, or are we just a different kind of, we call them races, but we're all the human race essentially,
Okay. Well, you want to know your background specifically?
That'd be
Okay.
interesting, yeah. Huh?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you came from Venus. Okay. And,
The human.
that's where. No. The Aryan. The
Right,
Aryan.
okay. Right.
The Celts, the ancient Celts, Aryan types came from there, and this was the same time that the moon came into the orbit. But they were like the original cave dwellers living underground, shit like that. And they act as sort of a prototype human. So they were one of the types of humans that got messed with. So this is kind of like the Hitler thing. Hitler was, saying that it was the master race. Well, in a way, that's sort of true because it's sort of like the blueprint that was used to modify to do all these other things with. But it's very old, obviously. The peninsula, the Hindu peninsula, is based on this race, this bloodline, and of course the kingdom of Mu, which is Atlantean, previous epoch, was also of this race.
Okay. It's interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I'll just say this: this is one of the more interesting things is that Irish dancing, which is a derivative of this ancient culture, is actually rhythmic tapping of the feet to match the resonant frequency vibration of the earth, or the resonance of the beat of the earth, to achieve this levitation. That was actually levitation.
It's not the Schumann thing.
What about the Schumann thing?
It's not the same thing. You're talking about the frequency of the Earth.
No. The Schumann thing is a whole other thing. Schumann resonant frequency is external.
Okay.
It's Schumann resonant frequency. There's a few people that think that it's a frequency that's out there, like a radio frequency that's just out there, and it fluctuates in increase in intensity, and it affects us. I believe that it's our fluctuation in energy that causes it to fluctuate.
Okay.
So basically, I believe the Schumann frequency is more of a representation of what we're doing.
Okay, rather than leading us somewhere, we're kind of leading it.
Rather than it's influencing us, we're influencing it.
Aye. Through our expanded consciousness or kind of evolution.
Exactly.
Because this could be like, we talk about all these different issues and it's like all fragments. But if we take a big whole picture, we could just be like an energy wave kind of unveiling itself, you know. So we're all kind of caught in something that we can't, I don't know, I guess we can direct. But but it's our job to embody it. So, with regard to these humans that were created back then, what did we look like? Were we the human that we see now? Were we much taller? Did we have different powers? Were we, what was a humanoid then? Did it get improved, or was it always shut down from the original creation? When did Adam?
No, you're taller now. You were shorter.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were shorter because you're bred to work in caves and mine gold.
Okay.
As I said, also to not have the eighth chakra. Okay, the hump was removed.
Okay, so we're shorter now. The humanoids now. So the original one was taller.
No.
Right.
We're actually taller than our ancestors. Right. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So that was the purpose of creating us, was basically the mining for gold to turn it into monoatomic gold, the white powder, and the Anunnaki take that back to Nibiru because they use it there. What would they use that for? And, are they still mining for this gold here? Is that still an ongoing thing?
Of course, that's an ongoing thing. It's never going to stop as far as they're concerned. That's kind of where we come in. But the thing is that the monoatomic gold was actually put into the atmosphere, and the reason is because the gold acts like a very good reflector of the infrared wavelength. And the reason why they did this is because it created a very good insulation to keep the planet warm, because it has a very long elliptical orbit. See, so in other words, it's way out in space. It's got a 12,000, who knows, it's just thousands of years orbit between, here and there. And so it takes it into areas where it's not getting the sun it should get, and this is where the gold comes in. And the result of ingesting the monoatomic gold by having it in the atmosphere causes this genetic change.
Okay.
And they're addicted to it. They can't live without it.
Okay. Kind of like the elites with their adrenochrome. They've been addicted to that.
Yeah, in a different way, but sort of. You get the... the scrotalus, I could see it coming. Trouble. but it's true. That's the thing, though, is if you look at, say, like biblically speaking, of course, the Ark of the Covenant actually produced this material, and that was what it was made for. And it was basically a device that could take solid 24 karat gold and convert it into an ionic form. So that it could be consumed, and this, of course, was manna, and as we know, just from reference in the Bible, we know that manna imparted all sorts of interesting gifts that they really didn't get into, but it's psychic. So if you're trying to enhance your psychic skills, and even nowadays, the people that are trying to ingest the monoatomic gold and these other nutrients, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to manipulate their DNA in such a way to enhance their psychic skill.
Talking about that, Tony Calvert did an interview with Rich Hall on Before It's News, I think, or his show, or Rich Planet, I think it was. It's still on YouTube, and he talks about the pyramids being on top of the pyramid. He said there was like a chalice with like a golden top and then a golden bit like that coming up, and it all interconnected to the cosmos, and obviously the alignment and ley lines and stuff like that. And they used to take monoatomic gold and go inside the pyramid and basically become enlightened type thing. Would you agree with any of that stuff? Can't hear you. No, you're muting yourself.
That was me. That was me muting here. I have somebody who was putting some groceries away here. I didn't want cans clanking.
I hear you muting from time to time.
Yeah, I know. I'm afraid it's okay. Let me just talk about the pyramids a little bit, okay? Because rather than discuss what someone else says, let me just say what I say a little bit, and we'll see if and then we can kind of go over it, because this is a fun direction we can go in, and there's a lot of information here. So let's just do that. First of all, the pyramid is many, many things, as you could expect, and certainly the pyramid is probably older than this epoch. In other words, what we would consider modern Egyptians did not build this thing. The damage that you see, the way the pyramid is basically corroded, but at the very tip it has a undamaged section, that's because of water that was that high. Okay, that's the flood right there. So bottom line, just that right there tells us that this thing is older than the flood. And if we look at the technology, we know that the technology involved was much older. I mean, it's practically as good as the technology we have today. Okay, we've discussed this, and because I am a polisher and my specialty was polishing flats, not only did I polish glass lenses, but sometimes I had to polish big pieces of granite, so I know what's involved.
Yeah.
So when you show me a stone that weighs 100 tons, that is polished on all four sides to within a wavelength of light over the whole thing, and it's parallel, and it's at a good 90 degrees, and it's smooth, and you know what I mean? These are optical geometric things of optical quality that you cannot achieve without using optics. In other words, without using light. You have to know how to manipulate light to do this stuff. So whatever they did was, and then you have to have the technique. I mean, we do it with big machines. How the hell did they do it? With humans? Now you can do it with a human. You could sit there with a human and just sit there and this is probably what they did. They probably had slaves. We call them opticians, but back in those days it was stone polishers. Probably why stonemasons are so, revered. But yeah, those stones had to be polished by hand to within optical specifications, and I knew damn well they weren't doing that with the technology that they had back during the time of Cleopatra or Tutankhamun. No damn way.
The Sphinx as well shows a lot of signs of water on it to suggest that it was at least 10,000 years old. So the history there obviously goes back further than what we're told. It also said that it had marble on the outside of it. What was the point of that?
All right, well, let's talk about that, because as I didn't really get into this, the pyramid is an orgone device, and by orgone device, what I mean is it is acts like a capacitor, and the reason why it has the pyramidal shape is because it works the same way as a quartz crystal might work, where it has that point, the same way we see in a obelisk. Standing there will have a point, and what that is an optical collector of light. It's what we would call a columnator. So basically what it does is it takes ambient light or energy that's maybe around in different directions, and it channels it into a relatively small place and downward. Okay, that's how quartz crystals work, and this is certainly what the pyramid is. So what's it channeling down to? If you look at the apex of it, obviously this is where the king's chamber is. So this energy is being focused on the king's chamber. Now, there's certain aspects that are going on here we call the law of dissimilar materials. Okay, so in other words, when you look at like a capacitor or even a lead acid battery that uses plates of copper and zinc, the thing that's happening there is so when you have layers of copper, zinc, copper, zinc, you have dissimilar materials. The acid only acts as a medium for the transference of the electrons or the ions. So the stacking or the layering of the dissimilar materials causes a movement of energy in a direction, in this case, into the pyramid. So the pyramid shape collects the ambient energy, cosmic energy, focuses it into this chamber. Now, if you look at the king's chamber, you'll notice the same thing is going on. You've got these stacks of granite arranged in different platforms with these other materials. So basically you've got granite, marble, etc. Now each one of these is a crystal. Once again, dissimilar crystals is what it's all about. And so if you look at metal, for instance, we talk about lead and copper. We're talking about non-ferrous metal, not iron. Now, non-ferrous metal is very crystalline in nature. And I'm not saying iron isn't also crystalline, but non-ferrous metal, it's not magnetic. It has certain characteristics like gold and silver. Now, I could get into it and just tell you real quick that the thing about silver that's so wonderful is that it has such an entirely small, it has the ability to build structures with using entirely small or very high resolution. In other words, ion on top of ion. No other material will do this. Gold won't do that at all. Copper won't do it very well either. Silver is incredible. So this is why the beam ships are silver. This is why they build it out of silver. But by the same token, it's very simple, not very simple, but it is possible to basically convert that silver into gold. So technically, silver has always been the material that's really been the most important.
All right. That's the whole point of alchemy, isn't it? Or not to turn lead into gold.
That's totally what it is.
Well,
that's what alchemy is.
But that's what I'm saying. Is alchemy not lead into gold?
No, that's propaganda. It's actually silver.
Ah, okay.
That's a trick you. So you don't do it.
They're good at that.
Why won't it work? Why won't it work? It's not working.
Yeah. So so you're saying this, the pyramid is an organ generator? Do people go inside?
Let me expand on that. I'm sorry. Okay, here's the thing. An orgone device basically collects the energy, but it also will clean it. Okay, because it's like structuring the energy. The energy is chaotic and has negative aspects. And so by basically funneling it into this thing, you are structuring it, blessing it, if you will, and putting it back into the earth in a healthy way that's going to nurture everything. So what they do is they have these caverns underneath this thing. And I've seen people that put a lot of energy in to try to reconstruct these things because they're aquifers and there are channels built to have water traveling underneath this thing. And what happens is that when the water is fed underneath it and it goes through all sorts of different things and creates vortexes and what have you as it's flowing. And essentially, the water is a chi superconductor. So all of this energy, when it's being converted into this very healthy energy, is put into the water so that it goes into the earth and around, and it's fed out to the surrounding area so that the plants and the people and everybody's going to benefit from this. So so what the pyramids were really for was it was an energy device, much the same way the Atlanteans did the same thing, only they overdosed it, and that's why they're gone. But the same thing, basically.
Yeah, well, that's basically more or less what Tony said. It changed the water, and people were drinking the water, and that was benefiting them. And obviously, if you've got that kind of water in the plants,
feed the plants, the animals,
so,
exactly. It would structure the water, basically, is what it would do. But it didn't just structure the water; it filled the water with all sorts of interesting scalar information.
All right.
The water was being programmed. That's what it did. So,
well, again, for the layman out there, lots of people these days have seen these pictures of you project hate onto water and you freeze it and you take the picture, it's very murky and bad. You project love, it's very beautiful. So that shows you how the structure of water can be manipulated. And if they've got these amazing devices that can do all that and add scalar into it, I mean, it must be amazing.
Well, okay, let me just say this, is that when you talk about a program and the concept of scalar is like a prayer. It's really what a prayer is. It's it's information in the 4D or the spirit world that basically changes reality on the 3D. That's what a prayer is. You put this prayer out there to the 4D in hopes that your 3D is going to be converted. And a scalar program basically does the same thing. It's used to alter a 3D reality. So let's say you had a scalar prayer that would make telling your plants to grow bigger, or your people to grow stronger, or your people to be happier, or your people to love each other more, or your people to live longer, your people to not get cancer, your people to not be affected by the harmful rays of the sun. All these things. In other words, it's just like the scalar programming that we do today, that they fight so hard to try to override, is that you can program practically anything, but you need to be benevolent, and you need to be programming things that are going to be helpful. But at the same time, whose right is it to decide who gets cancer and who doesn't get cancer, who gets good gas mileage and who doesn't get good gas mileage? That kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, obviously, all this stuff can be used for a negative. And even if not on the scalar level, just the water that people are drinking is poisoned with other chemicals that is affecting us on a frequency energy level as well.
We are. But that's more biological. Scalar, of course, isn't biological at all. It's completely... this is where, for the layman, the simple person would call this magic, which is a great word to describe something that people can't understand. I mean, certainly if you can't understand that there is a level of reality that can very easily be involved in manipulating this particular level of reality that we're on, then you're not going to get it, because that's the thing. Mankind for centuries has always had this ridiculous vain concept that our little level of reality was somehow the same level that everything else had to work under, which is just insane to even consider.
Yeah. I mean, that adds some weight to, some people will kind of focus on things and picture things in their mind over and over again, and that's kind of strengthening that in the ethereal world, and then it's more likely to happen in this world.
That's where church comes in, right?
Right.
Historically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah, because, well, again, that can be used against us. Like, even the television focuses our minds by repeating the same thing over and over. So that's like a mantra or a prayer.
Grandma's going to die if you don't wear your mask.
Yeah.
If you don't wear that mask, it'll be your fault when Grandma dies.
Yeah, people are wearing it with somewhat good intentions, I guess. But it's just cowardice at the end of the day, and, not knowing, not spending the time to be well enough informed of what's going on at this time to be ready for these kind of things. After 20 years of the internet, you wonder what people have been spending their time doing, because it's all out there, lots of this stuff.
Well, that's the thing, though. Most of those people are using the internet to look at porn, and or maybe not me, dear. Or kitty cats, perhaps. They're looking at little videos of kitty cats being cute. I'm guilty of that, of course. Animals.
I like a good rescue. When I get caught on Facebook and you see some animal that's gotten rescued and they bring it back to health, and it.
Jeez, those are terrible. Oh my God! Look at how horrible this cat looked, and look at how it turned out. Look at how great it turned out.
The happiest cat ever. Cats like that, I need bother.
Yeah, or the guys that capture the seals on the beach that have like fishing line and stuff around them and stuff like that. I mean, that's just crazy. They're like running around the beach, hundreds of seals all over the place. They're trying to catch this one.
I've seen one, a bear. It's not a big bear, but quite a formidable sized bear, but the size of me, had its head stuck in a can, and this guy's running around everywhere and pinned it down and put the thing on it and got it off.
Scary.
The claws those things would have, even at that size, would be able to do some severe damage. That's not for me.
Yeah, well, it's different. I have to deal with it on a different level, of course. I mean, I have a little lizard running around in the house right now. It's like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, I think it's because the fires outside. It's scared, it's scaring the animals, the smoke and stuff.
Yeah, how close are you to all these fires? And I mean, I seen a picture the other night there of this. It looked like a directed energy weapon. Whether somebody done it on their computer or not, do you think any of that stuff's going on? Because apparently Antifa have claimed responsibility for some as well.
Antifa, of course, Antifa's going around lighting fires. That's for sure. And whether or not they're using weapons, maybe they're doing that just to distract people from Antifa. It's like I said, whenever the enemy does something, they're going to do 2 or 3 different things at the same time. Yeah. So, but of course, yes, we do have Antifa assholes running around with their Bic lighters trying to cause problems. We had one. Okay, there's a relatively big one. I think it's still burning just that way behind me, right there. And there's another one that just started up behind me.
You're not worried about that at all, no?
And last night, one started out over there. Okay, over there now. So I got this way and this way.
There's no escape.
The one over there, I think, is out though. Okay, it's relatively small, but the ones over there are problematic because those are mountainsides and stuff like that, and they're large areas. But you know.
So what do you think's the objective behind this then?
Fear, disruption, trying to destroy the economy, trying to defeat Donald Trump, that kind of thing.
So do you think they're still fighting at some level, Democrat, Republican, they're not on the same page?
Yes, of course, but it's all, no, well, the leadership is, of course, but it doesn't matter because the thing is as we get closer to exposing the Getty once again and the underground bunkers and the tunnels and stuff, I mean, you got to understand, if we get down there, if we are successful in this mission, it's absolutely over. It's over for them. Thousands of years of preparation, 25 million years of work will be over. And this is what they can't have. And they will start wars, and they will start fires, and they will start people fighting against each other, and they will do all kinds of crazy things like they're doing. COVID, you name it. It's like, why else would they take an economy that's worth so much money and just destroy it? Yeah, I know. See, you should have turned that down a long time ago, dude. Why would they do that unless this was it? Okay, in other words, you don't kill the cow that you depend on for milk unless you know you're not going to be needing that milk pretty soon, or it's over. That's what's going on.
Do you not think there's been periods where this happens? They've got these humans they're trying to control, but we've obviously got some kind of DNA in us or whatever that can make us very powerful and spiritual. So that's why they have to shut us down and keep us under control, but they can't do that.
Yes.
So every so often they have a reset and a culling, and then they start again. It's just not just okay, guys.
They're going to try to. They're going to try to.
Yeah.
We're not going to let them get away with it. I mean, unlike the idiots that watch Noah shut the door of the ark and sit there and go, gee, Noah, what are you doing? No, we're going to get out our axes and we're going to cut a hole in that damn thing. And we'll say, what? WTF, Noah? Right? I mean, right?
Yeah, but there is how much concrete actually went into building the Getty? Is it not something ridiculous, like the biggest concrete build ever? So how the hell is an axe going to get through that?
Well, I'm sure we'll find a way.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
There's a will, there's a way. You'll find a spot where it's real. It's like a Panzer tank, if you know where to hit it, right? Or an M1 tank or a Churchill or whatever you want to take your pick, I don't know. What's a big tank over there? Leopard? What
I don't know much about tanks. Sherman? A German tank? No.
German tank. Well, I mean, in a modern tanks. I mean, obviously the
Panzer, is that modern?
Panzer, obviously, that's World War II.
That's all I know about tanks.
They've all got weak spots, right? But no, you're right. They did use an incredible amount of concrete to create that thing, and certainly, if they're willing to admit that it was an incredible amount of concrete, we know that it was actually a lot more than they say.
Here's one. I'm making a video right now. It mentions the Getty towards the end of it. So Emma was researching to look for pictures of it, and she discovered that they've got a water tank there that holds 1 million or 1 million tons of water.
Gallons.
Million gallons, yeah, million gallons.
Yeah.
Tons.
Yeah. Million gallon water tank. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll tell you something. They're not afraid. Okay, let me just tell you what it's for. This is what I was told. I was told that in the event of an invasion, like we were assaulting them, that they would release this water into the garden area. The garden is basically like a soup bowl. The grounds of the Getty are built kind of like a soup bowl. So if they filled it up with water, they would have a relatively large moat up there. So in other words, like areas of the structure that are open, say like the dining area and the research facility, what have you, areas that aren't on the exterior hillside area, that will all have a big moat, and that's what
Yeah.
that's for.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And there's a few other things that she noticed. First of all, if you look at an aerial view of the Getty, you could say it looks like a girl. There's like feet at the bottom, and it comes up and it looks like her arms are going back like that, or a small figure. Have you ever noticed that?
You know, a lot of people see a lot of things in that, really, to be honest with you. And I certainly have my own theories about some of the symbology that they're trying to display with this structure. But I personally think that more people need to actually study that and see what they come up with, because like one of the things that I was just getting into was the thing in the garden where it looks like they've got three circles, but the circles are positioned in a way that almost is reminiscent of a water molecule or something of this nature. And so I've been exploring that.
Okay. Well, I've seen another picture that was quite amazing. So there's got these two statues, and there's like a bronze one behind her. The front was one's bronze and one's white, and stand at the back. And the one at the front, her hand is like that. And there's this picture from the angle it's taken. It looks 100% like there's wanking off the statue behind. I'll show you the picture. It's just from the exact angle. It's like that's probably. It looks intentional. That the way they've designed that. Can't hear you.
Tell you, sorry, I'm just trying to push the button. It wasn't working properly. Obviously, I could tell you some stories. Okay, and one of the reasons is because they know what they've got. If you're just talking about the art that's up on the surface, they know. But for instance, there's a lot of art that has to do with people who are very high-ranking Masons, historical high-ranking Masons. Okay. You'll notice that they put that art in a very special way. They show that in a very special way. They also, there's a lot of stuff involving sacrifice.
Okay.
That doesn't really, they don't go tell you that's what it is, but if you know what it is, I mean, people that know what it is know what it is. It's obvious what it is. And they also have things like crowns, certain crowns. They're very, very old that belong to certain people. And these things, of course, from an artifact standpoint, are very important, right?
Well, you said they've got the Vatican library and stuff down there.
But that's downstairs. That's stuff you don't see.
Okay. So you're talking about in the museum itself, obviously.
The what then?
I mean, no. They've actually got a virtual display of some of their they call it digital display, but yeah, some of the art down there is amazing. The historic value of a lot of it.
Well, yeah, again, but you got to remember that what's on display is just a small fraction of what's underground, and then of course here's the thing. One of the things that people don't understand: a lot of people out there right now will say that they have 7 levels, underground levels, and that constitutes a dumb type bunker. Now, technically, if you're building a concrete structure that has that much living space like that, yes, that is a dump. But what people don't realize is that the real dump is way, way, way below that. So in other words, it's almost misleading. It's almost like they think, well, all we got to do is just inspect those 7 structures that are all loaded with art and what have you, and that we should be satisfied. But no, bullshit. The elevator keeps going down. And that's what's important.
How do you know that?
Well, we know that.
Because you travel in astral, or?
Well, yeah, that's the point. It's very confusing to a lot of people because they think it's still confusing because I'm not saying that they couldn't be doing wicked activity on these upper levels, but that's not where it's at. In other words, the Hogwarts, if you will, the Vatican Library, all that crap. That's not in those bottom 7 levels. That's below. That's way below that. Yeah. Just like the tube trains and the hyperlinks and all that. You're basically talking roughly a mile down. And if you look at the Getty, the elevation of the Getty, right there where it's at, you'll see that its placement above sea level is just a little under a mile up. Okay, and so the idea is that when during an escape mode type situation, you go down a mile, and what that does is it puts you well under sea level. Okay, so then from that point you could go horizontally outward, and you'd be into the ocean if you head west.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's how the Queen and whatever can travel around underground at high speed with these trains that they've built.
Of course.
Would you like to elaborate on these trains and what you know about them? Because I mentioned that again at work to somebody. The Queen's got a fucking thing under Buckingham Palace that gets to Canada in an hour, and he's like, aye, right.
Well, of course that's true. All right, well, very simply, and even like I said, Phil Schneider was talking about this back in '96, but we've got the damn pictures of them, and I could flash a picture of there. They're basically nuclear-powered tunnel boring machines, and what they do actually is they heat up lithium. Okay, a lot of people think that they just use radiation or something to bore through the earth. No, they actually they use lithium it's in a fluid form, heated up really, using this reactor, and the exposure of the lithium to the substrate is what causes the reaction or the melting. So basically, they're using this heat to melt their way through the earth, and what happens is that it leaves a very, very smooth glass-like surface like a tube as it goes along.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just heating it and moving it like that, creating a tunnel as it's going.
Right.
Just
exactly.
spin it all to the outside.
So they don't have to. In other words, the earth that is being removed is being converted into this very hard glass-like substance, which is much denser than it was before. So in other words, it's displaced. Okay. The melting of it basically displaces it, and they don't have to. There's no tailings, basically. Yeah. They don't have to take it and shovel it down behind and put it somewhere.
Yeah, it's just getting shoved to the side and it's getting held there.
But what's important to understand is that the smooth nature of the tube allows for a vacuum situation, a vacuum travel. So yeah, people think this is maglev and all that. It's not really a maglev. It's actually more like a vacuum thing.
All right. So it gets sucked at high speed.
Well, yeah, just like a tube that's traveling in a letter carrier or whatever thing. Yeah, it's a vacuum.
Right. And basically...
that's not to say that they're not using some sort of mode of speed generation also, but for the most part, it's vacuum driven.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people these days are speculating about where the Queen has went to. She seems to have vacated Buckingham Palace and everyone's protesting outside. I think
we know where she is, right?
Yeah. So just again, we have talked about this before, but you reckon that she's took one of these tunnels and is sitting under the gate just waiting for time and the agenda to unfold and this, like, their culling to take place, and then these guys are going to come up to the surface. Some people are saying that there's these reptiles that can hold a human form, and it's going to get to a point whereby they're just not going to give up and just show themselves as they are, and basically it's going to scare people shitless, and this is like towards the end,
Was that me that said that? Wasn't that me?
No, well, maybe you did,
Somebody else said that?
Today I seen it somewhere. There's a video where, he gets videos where a little bit of their teeth show like sharp or their eyes go reptile and stuff, and it's like people say that they're losing holding their shape. There was a preacher guy who's insane, and he got really angry. He's one of these, Christian evangelist guy. Oh my God, that guy was freaky. He was like, that guy's not human. This reporter kind of hijacked him for an interview, and his reaction was like fucking, he got really angry. He was wanting to throttle her. You could see the kind of almost seemed like a reptile nature wanting to eat her.
You must be talking about Kenneth Copeland. Is it Kenneth Copeland guy?
I don't know his name. He's Psycho Man. He's fucking.
That's the one. Get on my jet plane.
That's exactly the one. Because that's what she was talking about. Basically, you're on a jet plane. You're talking about this, and I've got to go there.
Copeland.
Oh my God, that interview! He was fucking freaking out. But that was a sign of, this creature almost desperate to come out and reveal itself. We had to rein it in a couple of times. Do you think it's going to get to a point where they'll just let go and say, fuck it?
If you turn off the thing that allows them to do all that stuff.
Okay. So I thought that was them controlling that. You're saying there's something that does that, or is that like a veil that we have to lift in ourselves, possibly?
But it's also possible that they have to. It's just like everybody else. It's like you talk about adrenochrome and all this stuff. Who knows it? Or even the what is it? The monatomic gold. Same kind of thing. Maybe there's something like a that loose they collect has to go into some sort of device that makes it possible for them to keep this going.
Yeah. Let's talk about the loosh then, again, for people new to this stuff. What is loosh? Because obviously fear promulgating out of the news all the time, that's creating us in a negative state. So that's like an energy form that they feed off. Is that what you describe loosh?
Yeah, it's sort of like adrenochrome, very similar. Only it's sort of like adrenochrome is like the real premium stuff that comes from the kids, but everybody makes it, and it's negative human emotional psychic energy. That's what loosh is.
Okay, so we're basically kept in a state like that, and all these jobs that we're doing, wearing the mask is obviously putting lots of people in distress. People are arguing about the mask, arguing about the virus, arguing about this, big debates going on, people getting heated and frenzied on Facebook, and you can, things seem, as the things get ramped up, obviously people's tensions and getting higher, and it's like almost like they're feeding off this stuff, yeah?
Totally.
Yeah. Which is why these days you're recommending people kind of keep their centre and not to let this stuff give that loose energy, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, obviously it's gonna make you angry, but you got to kind of keep it to yourself and let the enemy think that you're good.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, it's getting near that time where I'm going to have to think about my bed. Have you got anything you'd like to wrap up on? It's been a good chat again tonight. So anything you want to say about the future, how things are going? You've got a new website, I believe. You've got a new social thing that Kat is sharing with me about Truth Cat Radio, a forum thing going. Would you like to talk about them?
No, I think what she's talking about is the page. Let's see, what is it? It's truthcats.com, which is just another social media community alternative to Facebook type thing. It's a Facebook alternative. And yeah, it's basically what it is. It's a Facebook alternative that's free, no advertising, no censorship. There's no bots. We don't look at what you're saying, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Obviously somebody is though.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Facebook does it.
Yeah, but nothing's a secret online, obviously. But basically, so you're trying to get people into that. You're going to just talk about your issues, or you're going to make it a kind of free-for-all that people can talk about what they want?
I don't have anything to do with it. Basically, when you join it, you create a profile just like you do on Facebook, and you can interact with whoever you want. Invite your friends, look for people, whatever, set up pages, all that sort of, just like on Facebook. Same exact thing as Facebook. You get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
And obviously, the more people join it, the bigger it is.
Yeah, basically, I've got one of them as well. It's like a tribe thing. I'm just actually sitting in the background, and when I get other things kicked up, or if I try and get people interested in stuff, I want them to join there. Especially, again, as Facebook's going to do the October the 1st, they're going to change a lot of their guidelines and kick people off, I guess, and stop them streaming.
They'll probably try to kick me off again, no doubt, right?
Are you back on?
Well, not officially, no, but Q-Anon has basically been reconstituted. Same name. What I did was I made the A. Well, it doesn't really matter. Once the group was gone, that means the name was free. I realized that once they canned it, that means that no one else had figured out that they could that the Q-Anon name was available. So I thought, well, I better take it again. So here it is. We've got 375 members right now in Q-Anon. And we had 25,600 something when they killed us. So yeah, it's going to be a slow process. Yep,
do what we can while we've still got ways to communicate. Because although these tools very much get used to collect data and kind of against us, in some ways it does bring people together and knowledge is getting shared. So take the rough with the smooth on these things right now.
Mm-hmm. Got to keep doing it for sure.
Yep. Okay, man. With that. I hope the fires don't get to you, and we can chat again next week.
Yeah, it's very smoky outside. I'll just say that. That's why I have to keep the windows closed and the air conditioner running and the air cleaner running, because the particulate outside is very bad and it's not healthy. So yeah, they're really screwing us. In other words, you actually need a mask outside.
Yeah. Oh well. At least you're doing it with a purpose. I don't mind doing it if it has a purpose,
No. Well, they tell us that we gotta. Well, I'm sorry, we'll let you go, but I'm just saying, you can't go to a restaurant. You have to sit outside and eat, and yet it's the pollution, the smoke is so bad.
Yeah,
so crazy. Yeah,
the whole thing's nuts. Anyway, thanks for coming again, and we'll speak again. Cheers, folks. Thanks for watching, and leave a comment, share the video, and let us know what you think. That'd be great. Cheers. Bye bye.
Cheers.